Every time a ceasefire is announced, something strange happens on Wall Street. Defense stocks drop, not by a little, they crater. Exposed. Exposed for what they really are. Publicly traded companies whose entire business model depends on human beings killing each other. Peace is literally bad for the stock market. Think about that. Let that settle in your mind. The companies that build bombs, drones, and missiles are traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Their shareholders demand growth, and growth in this industry means one thing: more war, more profit. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a quarterly earnings report. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how peace became the enemy of profit, who keeps the wars going, and why the entire system is designed to make sure conflict never truly ends. What I'm about to reveal will change how you see every headline about war and peace. Forever. Wall Street's secret. Let me show you something that should make your blood boil. February 2022. Russia invades Ukraine. The world watches in horror. Mothers carry children across borders. Cities burn. And on that same day, Lockheed Martin's stock price begins to climb. Raytheon surges. Northrop Grumman hits record highs. War is a racket. It always has been. General Smedley Butler said that in 1935. A two-time Medal of Honor recipient. A man who fought in more wars than most people can name. And he came home to tell us the truth. War is not about democracy. It's not about freedom. It's about money. In 2023, global military spending hit $2.4 trillion. That's not a typo. $2.4 trillion. The top 5 defense contractors alone pulled in over $150 billion in revenue. Trillion. These aren't shadowy organizations. They have investor relations departments. They hold quarterly earnings calls. Their CEOs go on CNBC and talk about growth projections. Growth in the business of killing. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, because the real game isn't on the battlefield. The revolving door. Here's where it gets truly sickening. The people who decide whether we go to war are the same people who profit from it. It's called the revolving door. A Pentagon official retires on Friday and starts consulting for Raytheon on Monday. A senator who votes for a $100 billion defense budget has a campaign fund full of Lockheed Martin donations. The people deciding to start wars are the same ones selling the weapons. This isn't speculation. It's publicly available financial disclosures. In the United States, members of Congress are allowed to own stock in defense companies while voting on military budgets. Let me say that again. They vote on war budgets while owning shares in war companies. Exposed. If you're starting to see the pattern, hit like and subscribe to keep exposing what they hide. Because what comes next connects all the dots. Dick Cheney left Halliburton to become vice president, then launched a war that made Halliburton billions. This is not ancient history. This happened in your lifetime. And speaking of history, let me show you how deep these roots really go. Eisenhower's warning. In 1961, President Dwight D. Eisenhower gave his farewell address. This was a 5-star general, the supreme commander of Allied forces in World War II, a man who knew war better than almost anyone alive. And with his final words as president, he chose to warn America about one thing: not communism, not nuclear weapons. We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex. He literally invented the term, military-industrial complex. A sitting president looked into the camera and told the American people that the greatest threat to their democracy wasn't a foreign enemy. It was their own defense industry, military-industrial complex. And what did America do with that warning? Absolutely nothing. Since 1961, the U.S. defense budget has grown from $47 billion to over $800 billion. Adjusted for inflation, it has more than doubled. Eisenhower saw it coming 60 years ago. He warned us, and we didn't listen. He watched the machine being built and knew that once it reached a certain size, it would become impossible to stop. But if you think this is just an American problem, what I'm about to show you will change your mind. Global arms race. This machine isn't confined to American borders. It's a global industry, and every major power is in on it. The United States is the world's largest arms exporter. Russia is second. France, Germany, and China round out the top 5. 1. The US sells weapons to Saudi Arabia. 2. Russia arms India and Egypt. 3. France supplies the UAE. 4. China sells to Pakistan and Africa. Now ask yourself a question. If these 5 nations are also the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, the body that's supposed to prevent war, what incentive do they have to actually stop conflict? The peacemakers are the arms dealers. The answer is none. Zero incentive. In fact, the opposite is true. Every time a regional conflict breaks out in the Middle East, Africa, or Southeast Asia, these nations see a spike in arms orders. BAE Systems in the UK saw its stock jump 14% in a single quarter during the Yemen crisis. The countries meant to stop war are the ones selling the weapons. They don't want peace. They want manageable conflict. Just enough chaos to keep the orders flowing. And to keep that chaos alive, they've perfected a very specific strategy. Proxy war playbook. They don't fight their own wars anymore. That's too expensive, too visible, too politically dangerous. Instead, they use proxies. The playbook is simple. Find a regional dispute. Pick a side. Arm them. Arm, train, fund, repeat. Then when your side starts winning, arm the other side too, because the goal was never victory. The goal was duration. The longer a conflict lasts, the more weapons are sold. Vietnam lasted 20 years. Afghanistan lasted 20 years. The war on terror is now in its 3rd decade with no end in sight. The war is not meant to be won. It is meant to be continuous. Orwell wrote that as fiction. But look at the data. The United States has been at war for over 220 of its 247 years of existence. Forever war. That's not a country defending itself. That's a business model. Every proxy war is a product demonstration for the next buyer. Ukraine isn't just a conflict. It's a live-fire showroom for Western weapon systems. And this is all funded by one thing that nobody questions: your tax dollars. You are paying for this. Every single taxpayer in the Western world is funding the war machine whether they know it or not. In the United States, 53 cents of every discretionary tax dollar goes to the military. Not education, not healthcare, not infrastructure. More than half of your tax money funds the war machine. The Pentagon has never passed a full audit. Let me repeat that. The largest recipient of taxpayer money in the history of the world has never successfully accounted for where that money goes. In 2018, the first ever audit attempt found that the Department of Defense could not account for $21 trillion in financial transactions. $21 trillion. Missing, unaccounted for, and nobody went to jail. Nobody was fired. The budget went up the next year. Missing trillions. No accountability. They take your money, they can't tell you where it went, and they ask for more every single year. Because in this system, accountability is optional, but profit is mandatory. And the way they guarantee that profit is more disturbing than you think. Manufacturing fear. To sell weapons, you first need to sell fear. And the defense industry has become masterful at this. It works through think tanks. Organizations with respectable names like the Center for Strategic and International Studies or the Atlantic Council. They produce reports warning of existential threats. The think tanks that warn of war are funded by the companies that profit from it. These reports get picked up by media outlets. They become the basis for congressional hearings. Senators wave these reports around to justify voting yes on another $100 billion defense bill. The threat is manufactured to justify the spending. And here's the kicker. Who funds these think tanks? Check their donor lists. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop Grumman. The same companies that profit from increased defense spending are funding the organizations that recommend increased defense spending. If you want to know who rules you, find out who you cannot criticize. It's a perfect closed loop. Create the fear, recommend the solution, sell the product, collect the profit. Fear, recommend, sell, profit. And nobody questions it because we've been trained not to. But what happens when peace actually breaks out? When peace breaks, this is where the mask slips completely. Watch what happens to defense stocks when peace is announced. September 2023, reports emerge of potential ceasefire talks between Russia and Ukraine. Lockheed Martin drops 4% in a single day. BAE Systems falls 3%. The entire defense sector dips. Peace crash. Peace caused a stock crash. Let that sink in for a moment. The same thing happened in 2018 when Trump met Kim Jong-un. Defense stocks plummeted on the possibility of Korean peace. When the Iran nuclear deal was signed in 2015, weapons manufacturers saw billions wiped from their market cap. Every time peace breaks out, defense stocks fall. The market isn't lying. It's telling you the truth that politicians won't. These companies need conflict. Their shareholders demand growth. And growth means more contracts, more bombs, more drones, more death. Peace is not good for business. Peace is a crisis for the defense industry. And when peace threatens their bottom line, they have a very specific response: killing peace. Whenever peace gets close, something always seems to go wrong. A chemical attack happens at the worst possible time. Intelligence surfaces about a new threat. A diplomatic incident derails negotiations. Every time peace is close, something always goes wrong. Coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. In 2013, Syria was on the verge of negotiations when a chemical attack killed hundreds. The peace talks collapsed. Defense contracts surged. In 2003, weapons inspectors in Iraq said they found nothing. The invasion happened anyway. Peace dies not from lack of will, but from lack of profit. John Bolton, the former national security advisor, once said on a hot mic that certain peace deals were bad for American interests. American interests, not American lives, not American security. Interests, corporate interests, not yours. The defense industry doesn't just profit from war. It actively works to prevent peace. Through lobbying, think tanks, media influence, and political donations. They don't just profit from war. They actively prevent peace. This is not paranoia. This is the logical behavior of any corporation whose revenue depends on conflict. And the most terrifying part is what comes next: the exit strategy. So what do you do when the entire system is designed to perpetuate war? You start by understanding one fundamental truth. The most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history. They count on you not paying attention. They count on you accepting the narrative. They count on you being too busy, too tired, too distracted to follow the money. But you're here, which means you're already different. The first step is awareness. Know who profits. Check which politicians own defense stocks. Look at who funds the think tanks. Read the quarterly earnings reports of Lockheed, Raytheon, and Boeing like you'd read any other news. Follow the money, and you will find the truth. The second step is demanding accountability. No more unaudited budgets. No more revolving doors between the Pentagon and defense contractors. No more congressional stock trading in companies they vote to fund. Awareness, accountability, action. The defense industry is not invincible. It's powerful because we let it be, because we accept the fear, because we don't question the spending. But informed citizens are the one thing this machine cannot survive, and that is something worth fighting for. Here's what we've uncovered today. The defense industry isn't just profiting from war. It's designed to prevent peace. Publicly traded companies whose stock price drops when ceasefires are announced. Politicians who own shares in the companies they fund with your tax dollars. Think tanks funded by weapons manufacturers telling us we need more weapons. A Pentagon that cannot account for trillions. And a revolving door that ensures the same people cycle between making policy and making profit. In war, truth is the first casualty. This pattern has repeated for over 60 years, exactly as Eisenhower warned it would. But here's the thing about patterns. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. And once enough people see them, the pattern breaks. Peace is bad for their business, but it's the only future worth building for ours. If you made it this far, comment defense stocks to prove you followed the money and saw the truth. Question everything, trust nothing. Every government lies. The question is, what are they lying about? The truth is out there. You just have to follow the money. Subscribe if you want to keep digging.